So gents, the recording is up and we are now live at Spirii's office, or the latest recording of the Evolution Exchange HQ. We will not talk about the mishap on the first episode that we just tried recording, but yeah, I'm here joined by an experienced panel of tech leaders looking to discuss AI's effect on software as we move into the new world. I've spoke to you all privately. I know a little bit about you, but some of the panel members may not. So some of the listeners that are back at home. So gents, in no particular order, we'll stick to the way we did last time around. Peter, if you'd like to commence with a little bit of a introduction.
My name is Peter. I'm an engineering manager in Spirii. I've been engineering manager, whatever the title is, for the past 30-something years. I've also coded for many years, not so much anymore. Now my passion is building culture, engineering practices and discipline, and so on. I'm a great coffee nerd, and when I'm not drinking coffee or doing engineering culture, I am fly fishing in small streams in Sweden or small farms.
Yeah, I'm Steffen. I'm an engineering manager at Microsoft. I've been with Microsoft for about 17 years, a bit more. Before that, I've been about doing software engineering. Outside of work, I ride my motorcycle, and I'm very fond of my motorcycle. And riding motorcycle is the art of zen, almost like making coffee, right? That's my moment. Right now, I'm heading a team that actually is responsible for developer tools for one of our products, which is quite interesting in this context of AI. Yeah.
My name is Henrik. 35 years background as engineer, many of the years coding actually, and later on as manager, and now in Nordea, heading up our engineering unit that has responsibility for all the customer facing accounts, right? So net banks, mobile banks, these kind of things. A nerd by heart, definitely.
Yeah, I'm also Peter, technology director at Karnov. I also love making and drinking coffee, and it suits well with also cycling. Cortados and cycling is very close connected. So especially when cycling in Spain, there's a lot of cortados involved in that. Been a developer for also a ton of years, but I've spent most of my time in management over the last 10 plus years, and love optimizing teams and making good collaborations for engineering teams.
Perfect. Well, although I all know you, it's great that everybody that's listening gets to get a little bit of an introduction on that front as well. I came over and visited Copenhagen a couple of weeks ago. Noticed that these guys have three things in common: seniority within the industry, a lot of leadership experience in the recent past, all interested in how AI is going to affect future software engineering. So I thought, let's get these great minds in a room together. Let's discuss how they see it and what they can see happening. So, Steffen, I asked everybody to put forward a question, but I thought yours would be a great one to kick things off with.
Yeah. So in this world of AI, we as engineers have the task of doing software engineering. What is the future of software engineering in this world of AI?
Yeah. So when you think about AI, it's code generation and so on, and can say how big a part of doing software is actually coding. And my take on it is that the most of the work is understanding the problem you solve and designing it right and so on, and then the coding is just a manifestation part of it. You could also say that the big part of code we write is actually just to assemble stuff, because there's lots of libraries, lots of frameworks, and so on nowadays. So the majority of the code that's executed in our applications is actually not something we've written in-house. Anyways.
Yeah, and I think on top of that, if we look many years back, as we have experience to do, we have seen many smaller revolutions around developer efficiency. And this is a new one with AI. We have had 4GL and visual application tools, and now we have AI that is a new way of superpowering our developers. And I see that as the newest, greatest tool to sort of evolve our developers in becoming even more effective in what they do. There's a huge potential in this, and I think the role of the software engineer will not change that much, but they have a different toolbox with more things that can make them effective.
Then I agree on that, right? So of course, looking back, and especially how fast have we been? You all remember, right? 25 years ago, we deployed once a year, maybe twice if it was really modern, right? Now we try to do it every day, right? And I think actually one of the things with AI is going to change, hopefully, is that the prototyping phase, right? So you can test out things will go way, way, way faster, right? But you still need to figure out testing out the things. You need to get the feedback loop and all these kind of things, right? And come back to what you said as well, right? So we did analysis, right? So 30% of my engineer's time is spent on coding. And that is actually sort of coding, right? The rest of the time is figuring out who to talk with, figuring out the data model, figure out all these kind of things that has nothing to do with the code. That's right. So I think that is one. And then, of course, one aspect of it where AI, I hope, will help my engineers is the discovery phase, right? So being a bank, we have systems that are 35, 40 years old, right? And no one have no idea what is in there, right? So I actually would love to unleash the AI on all of our cobots, all made for code, and actually figure out what the hell is in there, right? Because no one remembers anymore.
It's quite interesting what you said about prototypes there, because there is a new world here with disposable software based on the AI. Maybe banking is the exception to the financial data. You don't want to have disposable software there. But to your point, is there a world where we'll now not need software engineering because we just do disposable software?
No, I don't think so. I think we will need software engineers for foreseeable future.
Yeah.
Because it's the engineering part that's important thing, not the fulfillment as such. You can say, okay, there could be, in my teams, we are discussing 2 schools or so, and we actually think we're going to do an experiment that one team will write tests and then have AI to write the code to pass these tests. Another team will do the opposite. They'll write code and have AI do the tests. So then we can see
Awesome experiments.
which way sounds cool. What's more productive and what's not. There's also studies that say that it's not necessarily enhancing productivity as such in how much code you can deploy to use AI, but I think there will be much better on, as to your point, at the quality will be better. We can do faster prototyping, learn faster, and so on. It's much easier with AI to vibe code 4 or 5 prototypes and then actually get some learning, throw them away, and then we actually do them.
Exactly.
Yeah, so I think your question, right? Yeah, we will have more disposable software, but that is in the figuring out what the real software was going to be. So we will do prototyping, whatever you want to call it, disposable software, right? But today we are very reluctant to throw the prototype away, right? So we end up having prototypes with maybe not that good code in production, right? Hopefully we'll see here that this prototypes will be disposable, right? And then I think the other part where we will see this is if I was delivering a SaaS solution, maybe you are a bit, to internal efficiency, right? Then I would be a bit scared, right? Because of course, when I'm looking at software to my internal people and not our customers, I may be more willing to let the AI loose there because, well, if it gives a bug, it gives a bug, right?
Yeah.
But of course, as you're saying, I cannot let it loose on my customer base and suddenly the money goes to a different account than it should have gone to, right? That's not good, right? But I think the internal tools is maybe where we will have some leeway on actually producing software from AI directly.
Kind of talks into the whole concept of trust in AI, because that's an important topic here.
Yes.
And then as we move along, that trust will rise. We'll become more and more willing to let things loose.
Yes.
So that means that we need to focus on other things and do the coding and such.
When you initially heard that number, 70% of the time was spent doing other things.
Yes.
Was you surprised that you thought you were spending more time coding, or was that something that was a relief to yourself?
No, I think I knew, right? I think I knew, right? But of course, it was good for other people to understand, right? So of course it actually came from one of these. Now AI is coming, and Microsoft is telling us that it will save 30% of our coders' time, right? Because it will produce code 30% more efficient. But if I'm only spending 30% of my time producing the code, then 30% of 30% is a little less than what the first cost saving was saying, right?
But you're also saying that you get gains on the speculum.
I hope so. And that is at least what I see, right? That was not the first use cases a couple of years back, but actually now starting to use it where you see some of the CLI coding agents that actually can look at a full repository and maybe learn the code over a day or two, right? Then I see it, right?
Yes.
But that was not what we discussed 2 years ago.
No. That's very, very different. This is very
Documented, undocumented code,
Yes.
all that kind of things. And maybe also that having better requirements and so on. So use AI in the requirements phase as well to challenge assumptions and so on. And maybe the software engineering will be transitioned more into context engineering and prompt engineering and so on to make sure that we set the context right. Because AI, as we have now, is very biased and will go out in a tangent if it's used wrong. It also sets some requirements on the skill of the software engineer that use the tool. Because AI can be wreak havoc in hands that are not actually experienced, but it can be really, really beneficial for experienced developers.
Oh yes, absolutely.
And I guess that is where when we look at the trust in AI where we are today, then we should make sure that we understand what has been generated. Unless it's the throwaway code that we can use for a small POC, I think that is a brilliant way of utilizing it with some vibe coding and making the POC. So because our customers normally want to see how it looks before they can decide what they want.
Exactly.
That is normal. We have been used to that for forever. So having that discovery phase in a more interactive way with our customers is a brilliant way to do.
Show and tell is actually.
Exactly. But then, as you said, when we get to customer-facing products and making that, now I come from Karnov, where, lawyers and judges use our software to decide people's fate, more or less, and we cannot afford that things are wrong. So we have a very high threshold saying this needs to be very correct before we can deliver it to our customers. And that sort of also inflicts our way how we do software, because the content needs to be in an extremely high quality, and that the same would go for the software, because if we miss a link between content, then it's a problem.
Consequences,
So making this and building an AI on top of that is where we can really superpower things for customers. But I also see my developers using standard AI tools in order to do research for a development task. If they are doing something in a new area, then they can have a chat with the AI to find out what libraries to use, what strategy to do. Would you do me an architecture diagram of this? And then you also, in that design phase of software, can get a lot of help from the AI, so you are much more prepared when you go code. Because coding is not the biggest part of the developer's life. It is finding out what to code.
Yes.
And there we can use the AI a lot, because then it doesn't matter if there's small mistakes in what we get, because we can deduct that from the end result. So I think that is where the AI is really good in the discovery phase and preparing to code. And then maybe if we get 10% more efficient in the total, that's also worth, because when we invest in AI tools, then just 1% developer efficiency can pay for a lot of AI tools. So that is also a good part of the business case here.
And job satisfaction.
But I'm actually so getting into that, right? So I'm actually using the deep research that came out. So I think it was OpenAI that started with it, but now they all have it, right? But actually using that as the pre-request, right? Saying that I have an area here I want to explore, right? what is the options in the market, list them for me, and then it goes away and think for 10 minutes, right? And actually come with a full report. That would have taken me hours and hours to produce in the house, right? But it doesn't take any decisions for me.
No.
It just does this work, right? So that's one of the things I'm starting to love.
Yeah, I use that as well, also to challenge assumptions. Sometimes I say, I have these assumptions, please give me some feedback and why they are wrong, and so on. And then it actually creates a good clear view of a problem.
I love the asking 10 questions about this topic. Because I have my assumption.
Yes.
Yeah. That's very cool.
No, we've talked a lot around high reliability working with an illegal firm. You've talked a lot around metrics that are developer efficiency. But I think you're mentioning things that aren't quite quantifiable now as well, which brings us nicely onto your question, Peter, around culture.
Yes. What is the engineering culture we as leaders need to build in the world of AI? So what do we need to change? We already have talked a little bit about how much we code and what are important and so on. Something I've seen is that some developers are actually challenged a little bit by that they are elevated in the problem domain, saying they need to have a more holistic view of the problem they solve and so on. You can't just get a task that are well defined and so on. So for me, that's been sort of that's different kinds of developers and the distance between them have been bigger now. Because the good ones, they really thrive with this AI. The challenged ones, they struggle a little bit.
I think culture-wise and providing tasks to developers, I strongly support that we give developers problems to fix instead of tasks, because then we get their brains going. And yes, the great ones perform really good. And the lesser great ones, they can struggle. But I think for those, I think the AI can come in really handy if they start utilizing the AI. And we get away from the mindset from the start of AI where people look at us, oh, I'm cheating a bit and using AI. And we should definitely eradicate that motion, because it is not cheating, it is just doing your job with the tools at hand. So this making sure that especially the lower tier of your developers are utilizing AI, because the great ones will just do it by themselves. They don't need help. So we should focus on the mid section of developers to get them lifted up to an even greater potential with the use of AI.
It's the growth mindset. Encourage people to learn and try out, experiment a bit with AI and figure out how they can use it.
Yeah.
And then also recommend it, show it off, like have the experienced engineers show off what they did, how they used AI, and have that learning culture built into the whole development cycle. Like, how did we use it in this project? What was the benefits and drawbacks?
Yeah, and I actually think that one of the things, it seems counterintuitive, right? But I actually think communication will be more important the more we have AI in, right? Because you cannot do as we all have this kind of engineer in the head that sat in the corner for 2 weeks and then he came up with something brilliant, technical, right? I don't think he will exist that much, right? Because that you can just put the AI to do, right? Because that will have the knowledge of the internet, right? And that's bigger than any of our what we can hold Marriott, right? So the communication, not only by people, but also the communication with the AI, right? So that communication and together with actually a conversation, you get to the solution. I think that is one of the cultures we need to actually put forward, right? So in my head, I have this mental image that 10 years from now, maybe it won't happen, maybe it will, that we actually stand in front of a whiteboard, engineers together, and while we are talking and discussing, the AI will code it on the whiteboard, right? So we actually see the prototype coming to real out of the conversation we're having, what makes sense like this.
I think that also talks to the fact that we'll talk more with the product owners, the people who actually define the projects, not in terms of having meetings there for 2 weeks, but actually every minute, every hour. Maybe they do some of the vibe coding, the prototyping, the input for the engineers. Maybe they do more and we deliver more than we expect today. I think that's a key thing. We need to have a broader composition of our teams.
Yes, I think the boundaries between the different categories of people on a team will be smaller because they can sort of gap over each other's areas a bit with the vibe coding or other kinds of prompting. So the developer can know more on the product side, and the product people would do the prototypes themselves. So I think the collaboration thing is super important, that we get closer and collaborate even more in order to achieve the good results.
Maybe the borders between the different software engineers and product managers and so on will soften a little bit in this area, because the tooling gets better.
Sorry.
We still have some reservations that in our organization we have a really strong message that whatever's deployed to production is the software engineer's responsibility. So we need to know what's there and so on. It's fine if some is written by AI, but if we go on point, we need to be able to know what it does, and so on.
That's a good rule.
Yeah.
And I think maybe that's a good segue into to my question here.
I wouldn't put it any better myself, Peter.
No.
I was thinking that was a perfect tee up for you to hold your question.
Yeah, because how do we ensure that there's a proper human in the loop when using AI for software development, especially around our production environment? Because I fully agree with you, Peter, that we cannot afford putting code in production that our developers does not fully understand. We are not at that point in time with AI quality that we can do that.
We might get there. Right?
Yeah.
Matter how the code looks like and so on, but it just doesn't what it's supposed to. But we are not there yet. There's too much bias in AIs and so on today.
I think, unfortunately, right now we have a year or two that will be very painful for some of our engineers, because they will be pull request reviewers and nothing else, right?
Yeah.
Review fatigue.
Yes. But I think we have to get through it, right? Until it's good enough that we can try to get back to the bit of the trust that you also mentioned earlier, right? That at some point, with the human in the loop will be, have you thought about, have you done this? So you're proof checking the code that has done itself. It's not there yet. I'm still not taking, but now I'm thinking 3, 4, 5 years in the future, right? Then hopefully we can get where we can actually read the code by just prompting it, right? You're asking it, have you thought of that? What about that? Please do defense vectors on that code you have written yourself and write those and these kind of things, right?
But I think agents will also help there, right?
Yes, definitely.
Absolutely. So we'll build festival agents. But
Yes. We'll have an OWASP agent, you will have these kind of things, definitely.
Yeah.
Right? But I think we unfortunately will have a few years now that it's going to be a bit painful.
And hopefully we can spend some of that time, especially building those agents, because right now we can say, well, a team has a special coding style and they want the code they produce to adhere to those standards. And you could train an AI agent to do that.
Yes.
But it takes a lot of effort. So it's not something you just do with a simple prompt. There's a lot of prompting involved in getting there and training the agent for it. But I also think at some point in time, we will end up there, but it will be a painful time where we are, sometimes wake up in sweat because we don't have control over all the code we generate.
For that.
But the expert developers you talked about before, they will build those things.
They will.
They don't want to review everything.
There's also folks in our organization that having AI doing code reviews and providing feedback and so on, and all these kind of things to help with the consistency of the code.
Exactly.
But if we take a longer view, years in the future, then maybe it doesn't matter how the code looks like, because it will be machines that actually read and write and so on. And say code standards is actually a human thing. It's a communication protocol, right?
Yes.
And so on. And if AI is writing all the code, that doesn't matter. No, right? But until we are there, I think it's really important that engineers know what we have in production, because that's and they are accountable and so on. And maybe we move more towards orchestration and so on than actually writing the core functionality. So that might happen sooner than AI doing the whole thing.
Yeah, so one of the great things with the AI tools we have today is when you arrive at a code base you don't know that well, and you have to debug something, have a big stack trace or something, then you get tremendous help from the AI to explain the stack trace and almost identify which module you have to look in. So this about unknown code, that barrier is so much better. And I do understand from your side with all the legacy COBOL code lying around, then this will be a great tool for you guys.
Right.
We treated about the painful few years that you mentioned. How do you ensure that, I know the reliability isn't quite there, but how do you ensure that you're still trying some of these things while simultaneously not getting left behind, in 2 or 3 years' time when these painful years are over and other companies have adopted?
But I think that comes natural, right? So you want to use them, and as you also mentioned, right? So we're using it for code reviews as well, right? So of course, already now I'm seeing my best people are spending way too much time on code reviews and correcting stupid things that I see the AI could already do now, right? So giving the handbook, giving the best practice, that do the first review. So I think that is also a way of turning it around, right? It's just there is a period here where we need to train the AI. So of course, also the pull request reviews that the expert then does on the AI, we have to take that back in the feedback loop, right? So the AI agents or coders gets better, right? But yeah, that is, of course, I still think that the help is so big that it will be better, right?
At least just shorten the feedback loop. How many interactions back and forth you need having a code review? You can shorten that, then we shorten the time from inception to production.
Yes.
I think I'm intrigued to hear your question as well, Henrik.
Yes. So a bit back maybe, and a little overall what we have talked about, right? So my daughter isn't 18 yet; she's 15, and I can't convince her to do engineering. But I've been trying. Well, let's say that she was right. So she was starting to be computer engineer, right? Starting to study that, right? So what kind of things would we suggest for her to focus on, right? When we all were in school, it was what language to learn, these kind of things. But what is then the focus you should have if you want to go into engineering, or would we even stay the hell away? What would be our advice for her?
I think engineers will be useful for many years ahead, but maybe less coding, less language dependent, and more problem solvers. Be able to understand problems, dissect problems in logical ways, and so on, and then they understand the problem. So only talk to people. That's getting more and more important for social interaction. Talk to people we're solving for, and so on, to understand their view and what is many times the problem we get described. See, I want to have this problem solved. It's not the problem they have. So we need to do some exploring and so on. And that skill, I think, is becoming more and more important in engineering.
Yeah, definitely the good old skill of problem solving as the primary skill of a good developer. I think that will stay important. And the direction you should take. Well, right now, data scientists are the rock stars of this age, and I think they will be for a while. So I think also if I should recommend something for an 18-year-old starting in journey that way, maybe I would direct them in that direction, because that is where we will see more and more of the AI use cases being built by data scientists with some Python code. So I think we'll see more and more of that.
Yeah, I think, at least for me personally, I think that the school of engineering or software engineering gives you opportunities to kind of explore where your passions are, not like a fixed curriculum of what you need to do, this language, that language, but more like figuring out, is algorithmic design your passion? If it is, then absolutely go that way. I think there's a future in that for data scientists, for deep performance analysis and all these things. But many will then discover that they have other passions that are like beyond just coding. Could be communication, orchestration, managing these agents, or figuring out how to understand the problem space. I think this is what the new kind of school, what it must look like. It must be a way of giving options and finding passions. Because this old school of saying you need to learn C or Go or whatever, that's not relevant anymore. Anyone can do that just by saying, I want this, give me that. Right. So,
But what does that lead to, Brent? So, of course, I think while you mentioned also the junior engineers, right? What is the role of them? But how do we then upskill our employees today? Because at least some of the people I get in from universities are focusing on coding and not engineering or whatever you want to call it, right?
Yes.
But how do we upskill our people?
I think we need to change the focus more to engineering. Also stop topics that were topics before, like ethics. Just because we can do something doesn't mean that we should, right? How do we build? What are we actually? What are the side effects of the constructions we make and so on, as well? Especially with the AI statements now, there's no ethics. If something is possible, we can do that, right? And that's also an aspect in finding out what problem to solve, but also how to solve it in a proper manner and so on. So
I think that's a good point. That it's no longer about how do you code an algorithm. It's more about what is what you're trying to achieve.
exactly.
That's the
What are the effects of side
Why?
effects and so on? Why?
Exactly.
But I think that has been the classical thing with junior developers coming in. They have learned a craft of coding, and now they have to learn to become a developer.
Yes.
And that is about learning to collaborate with other people, both inside your skill area, but certainly with outside your skill area, and understanding the business purpose, because we know that a developer becomes hugely more valuable as soon as they understand the business case of the business they're working. So they know the applications, how they should function, because then they can be the advisor to the business, say, whoa, you have this problem and we could solve it this way.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And also a challenger.
Yeah, but because at least how I had seen it in the past, right? That was kind of the unforeseen treatment between the master, right? So what some of our good senior engineers and our juniors was that you can tag along with me and then you do the code that I didn't really want to do because that was boring.
Yeah.
But now the senior could just ask the AI to do that, right? So how are the junior gonna become better when this master trainee kind of relationship to some part goes away or maybe not needed that much?
Maybe it's about changing from an apprentice relation to a coaching relation, because the senior also need to know that there will be no more seniors at some point if we don't develop people. So it's more about coaching and leveraging their knowledge in making others better and so on, making the problem better and so on.
So that goes a bit back to the culture you were talking about. So we have to make that culture.
Yes.
Okay.
And the tasks are not going to have work to do, so you need to learn somehow. That's the coaching on that, and learning from the reviews that you're going to see and all these things. Right? It's less about coding again and again and again the same thing. It's more about looking how things are actually done by others, done by AI, done by the senior engineers, and trying to replicate that yourself using the tools that was.
Because there's different approaches to the you can say the apprentice fashion. If you just make them sweep the floors and they do the odd jobs that no one else wants to do, or you make them review the seniors' pull requests instead, trying to understand why they have done things in a certain way, because that's a way much better way for them to understand the things that's been done, and have them go out and understand the business requirement and come back to the team to be able to talk about that. And we also need to remember that getting the new generations in on a team can sometimes bring a new perspective that the senior developers does not have. And they bring new ideas to the table and new ways of solving problems. And that is also a value that maybe they are juniors, but they have new ideas. And sometimes we say, but then That's a good idea.
Let's try that. Oh, everybody thought about it.
Yeah. Yes. So I think that's also a big value add for a team to get this diversity. I think that is a very modern word these days. Having this diversity on a team, because having a team of seniors is not the best way to go.
No.
You need the diverse team with lots of different capabilities, and then you get the good results.
Yeah, exactly. But the maybe now I'm just thinking out of the box, right? So do they maybe become more even in the future? So juniors and seniors, because if the knowledge of 30 years of coding isn't that important anymore, I'll say not important, but not that important because you just asked AI.
Yeah.
Does it then become easier to be the junior?
Definitely, yes.
I think so.
It's about problem solving.
Yes. Are they able to critically think to the same level?
Yes.
Is anybody able to critically think outside of the box?
Yeah, exactly.
AI can tell you that this is this because it is what it is.
Mm-hmm.
But do you have the means and the ability of them 30 years? Then I'm going to challenge that because of what I've seen in a way that solves a problem. Same in any role, any walk of life. That's the way that I can see it going. It's you can either take it to word that is what it is, but it's how you read the assumptions only humans with experience can read into. That's what.
But I think, of course, the experience comes then when we've all tried it, right? So you're sitting there, you're seeing some software design, you say, there's something rotten, right? Coach Mel. Yes.
It's all about how innovative you are.
Yes.
So how do you view the problems and so on.
So I think that will still be needed, right? So you think out of the box. I still think you have that sense whether this will play well in production, right? And I think that is the experience, right? So that's where the senior comes in, right?
Yeah.
Just like I've tried this before and it failed miserable.
Yes.
So let's try something else. Right?
Exactly.
Yeah. But
So I
again,
do try that.
the AI tools can help lift the junior engineer up, but they might end up trusting the AI a bit too much in the beginning because they don't see the pitfalls. So that is also where we, getting back to human in the loop, we need a senior human in the loop sometimes as well, because as developers, you can make really important decisions on a very low level that can have big consequences down the road. So we really need to understand things that on paper maybe look good, but when it implemented and scaled to 10,000 users, you're in trouble.
Yes, then you see different patterns.
Yeah.
Experience.
And that's where the experience still is needed, but presumably AI will pick that up at some point in time.
As we feed it back.
Yeah.
That's gonna absolutely.
Yeah.
I did have a question on my side.
Mhm.
Will ever reach a position where the current software engineer roles becomes a engineering manager with different agents working in a manner that a team previously would?
Isn't already. I mean, we all have agents running some form, and maybe they are halfway autonomous or not. But that's the role of a software developer. You build the agents that does things for you. We're an engineer manager, right? You're an orchestrator of work, essentially. Right? Of course, it's going to be more in the future, absolutely. The easier it becomes to create agents, create these tasks that somebody goes and does as an autonomous task. The more you'll have, maybe that's going to be a problem. I don't know. Yeah, definitely 100%, right? So I definitely see that come there, right? Most of the good software products we have is because an engineer will get pissed about something he has to do again and again, right? If it now gets easier for him to build that software, right? Then of course he will do that, right? So it will become that. No doubt about that.
The lazy engineer.
Yes, that's the best, right?
Yeah.
The impatient lazy engineer, right?
Exactly.
Yes. And we will get a lot more tools built in this way because it's so much easier to create these agents. And as the quality rises, we will end up trusting them more and more and more. And then they can solve a lot of real world tasks they already do, but they can get more and more advanced.
Yeah. That's maybe where the trade shifts a little bit from knowing how to code to knowing how to provide the right context and the restrictions and so on. Instead.
Yeah, because the skill or craft of prompting becomes so important that you need to know how to put the questions right, so you get the right responses out of the model.
Yeah.
So that is definitely a craft that our very young people should learn. Because that will be hugely important to know that. We started when Google started, Vista, then you should know how to search. Now you should know how to prompt. It's kind of the same skill evolving, knowing how to ask the questions right, so you get the good answer.
And that's even changing now with all the tools on
Yeah.
enhancing your making the prompt even better.
That's always what it's all about. The future of a software engineer through to cultivating culture, how it looks for the 18-year-olds coming through and what you recommend, even through to be the last bit, which is a little bit more ambiguous and open thought. But is there anything we've not touched upon that anyone was looking to get out of the discussion, or potentially various?
So I could be curious if any of you have an idea or thought on having AI infused in the products that you do. I mean, having decisions in products made by AI that are not fixed in code, which is an interesting new idea from the space of AI.
So something we are looking at is two things. It's predictions. So using AI to actually go through heaps of data and predict patterns and so on, detect patterns. That's something we're looking at. And also decision support. So when we are in an operational sense, then what will be most important we do now and so on, and getting help with that.
Could you imagine a place where like the user interface or maybe some process is completely prompted?
Yeah, of course. You could do an agent that actually takes the stats and so on from your operational units or whatever you have, and then actually use the MCP server to actually fix issues without anybody.
A lot of trust in that.
Yeah. But then again, you can build it so the API of the MCP server can actually access this limited. Again. So it's not they can do everything. They can do what we still do.
Still want control.
Earlier this year, I did a presentation for some legal tech people, and it was on April 1st. So one of my products that I said we were going to do was the AI judge. And obviously it was an April Fool's joke, but if you play with that idea, then, well, we have the database of the laws, we have a database of case law. So in a lot of instances, you could solve a lot of court cases with an AI, or at least be a very firm decision supporter. Also moving into, you can say, the caseworker area where they are handling a lot of cases. We could be looking into scenarios where we provide very sound advice to a caseworker. We have set up encryption in our prompting now, so you could upload documents with personal data in, and then work with that and get a reply out. So we are very close to delivering answers. We still need human in the loop. I need to say that very firmly, but then you have this decision support system that we had 20 years ago, maybe, where we made these expert systems that also could do some of that, but now working with AI models instead and delivering answers and ruling, kind of.
Immediately think would be awesome to have a statistics on the prediction and the actual result.
Yeah, exactly. So, but it is still super scary.
But we're seeing that maybe not the generative AI, because of course we have. So if we had a chatbot for the Gen AI, we'd have advisor responsibility as a bank. So that gives a bit of problems because we're actually reliable. So we can be sued if it gives advice to do that, and that advice then is bad.
Yes.
But if we take the broader AI, it's not the Gen AI, but the more machine learning AI, then of course, again, prediction is more, we see it a lot, right? So how are you spending your money? What could be advice for that if you have some savings goals, these kind of things. So seeing patterns where we haven't, you can say, manually done the machine learning patterns, right? But actually have them autonomous, right? So that could easily be because that is just showing the customer something. That could also be on the savings area. If you have a savings goal stock that this market, this way, then figuring out what falls into your kind of categories and come with suggestions for that. But it wouldn't be decision
No.
taking.
I think that's the common thing.
Yes, it would more be information kind of gathering, right? Yes. And of course, then the holy grail where it becomes a bit scary is, of course, decision on loan expenses and stuff like that, right? Whether you should be allowed to give a loan or not, right? Personally, I actually think, and what we're seeing on the machine learnings, they're actually better than the humans that are taking the decision today, because the humans actually have way more bias. But that isn't a bias we accept as humans. Where if the machine has a bias, then we are not accepting it, right? So actually, the comparison that we are doing actually shows the machine is probably better, but we're still favoring the human, because also legal-wise, actually saying that it's a human mistake is okay answer, but it's an AI mistake is not an okay answer.
Then you're liable for your product.
Yes, but we can actually, so it's okay to say it was a human mistake, right? Even though that the human often takes.
Is that going to be a challenge going forward with for all of us? I mean, we can never get to a point where we can trust AI.
But I think it's not a trust in that sense. It's a more a decision, right? It's a human decision whether we accept that AI may never be 100%, but if it's 99.8 and the human is 70%, that is actually some numbers I have that where we are comparing that. Today, the appetite, let's call it the risk appetite, for the 7% human is there, because that's how we've always done it. Even though one can prove that the other one is that much better, the risk appetite is not there yet.
No, but it will come.
It will come.
With the lag.
Yes.
But I've seen with the analysis of X-rays and dots where an AI does a way better job compared to a doctor. I guess that's the kind of where you got those numbers from. But also this about bias, we can see that AI, when treated well, is way less biased than us humans. You can get into scenarios where the AI is also biased because of the content we gave it.
Yes, content is feedback.
Yeah. You know watch football? You know watch football?
No.
Recently introduced technology in VAR, and we understood that human error was a massive, massive part of the sport with the refereeing decisions. But when AI come in, or some kind of machine learning that says, okay, this is a decision, if it's not 100% and there's any error, that causes like uproar. Even though they knew the human would be making the exact same error time and time again. When you expect 100% reliability and you don't get it, and it's 97, 98, that causes more disdain than the 20, 30% that would have been aggressive.
And that is a thing we need to discuss more openly and be in agreement that, well, it is actually better. So maybe we should go that way. But it is so scary for us humans to say we will put our trust in a machine.
Oh, yes.
We are not really there yet.
Well, gents, I think that brings us nicely to a halt. Thank you so much for participating. Thank you if you've been listening in. And really enjoyed recording this one live on site. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your bite.